Hello folks and welcome to this video. This here is a general notice. It's where I set out what's going on for the next few days of the course of the channel and talk about things going on in the real world of motorsport. So, without further ado, let's get right in. Here's the channel update. And I'm hoping to get my IMSA VIR preview out today because then it means that it's ahead of the on-track action this weekend, the VIR GT race. Then I'm hoping to get out a review for the second Super GT round. Then it's the WRC Grampian Rally. I haven't actually followed too much of that, so I'm going to just sit down and watch the WRC highlights package on ITV. Then hopefully I'll get something out for the Supercars in Queensland before on Monday the preview for Rally Paraguay. I might swap those two around if I haven't had enough time to watch Queensland over the weekend. Likewise, Tuesday, hopefully getting a review out for NASCAR at Daytona. I know that is Saturday night, but again, I have a few plans this weekend that don't involve me staying up for another Saturday night in a row. I was still recovering until this morning from from staying up for Richmond. And then hopefully, a preview for Zandvoort, and the next general notice will be next Wednesday alongside a review for Super Formula at Sugo, which is also something I need to sit down and watch. Don't think I watched a race at Sugo yet. I think I watched a lap of it in somebody's Gran Turismo video. But either way, just quickly want to say, because I have family members who are receiving results today, and I'm sorry that I didn't last week. Those receiving the A-levels, and congratulations to many who did that. Again, I had family members who were very happy with their results there. Congratulations to everybody receiving their GCSEs today. And best of luck for your future studies. It comes at a time where these grade boundaries are getting harder than ever. I mean, even though you've had a stable set of regulations for the past decade, grade boundaries are higher than they ever have been before. So, if you didn't get the outcome that you were hoping for, don't be too harsh on yourself. Just think about what you want to do next. This doesn't mean anything's over. It doesn't mean that you need to give up. I have some people who are very close to be some good friends who took their English language or their maths 3, 4, 5 times before they got it. Heck, when I passed my driving test, it was on its 3rd time. So, don't worry. You're not alone. And it's not the end of the world. Okay? Now we're going to go on to talk about the real world of motorsport. Starting off with the WRC. Because I talked about this last year. WRC was rumoured to be for sale. And now we know it is. The FIA have opened the tender bid, the tender process, and I believe the valuation is that $500 million that was floated around with JP Morgan last year. That means that Red Bull and KW25 are looking to sell, and we have statements from Mohammed Ben Sulayem and Malcolm Wilson talking about the sale. I'm just hoping that they don't do what they did with Ford RX, which is they just went, we will take that. Because that's why Robert Reed resigned. And that's why Malcolm Wilson is now in his post. I wonder if it's going to be something else in the Liberty Media empire. You know, the Lotto and F1 and MotoGP. And now Formula E. I think that it's most likely it's going to go to, either the FIA or Liberty. 500 million sounds pretty light, though. I wonder if that's because there's not as much optimism for the 27 rule cycle as people originally hoped. Either way, talking about rules, new and old, Valtteri Bottas is now strongly suspected to be signed for Andretti. In fact, I've seen many articles pertaining to it. Now, from what I know, no drivers have been confirmed yet. And people who are in and around Andretti are like, why are we still seeing all these articles? We haven't made these confirmations. But given that Bottas is looking like he will be back in F1 sooner rather than later, it's worth pointing out that he will still receive a grid penalty in the next race he starts. Just like Jenson Button will. Now, Bottas got a penalty at the end of last year in Abu Dhabi for a collision with Kevin Magnussen. Got a 5-place grid stop for the next race he takes place. And Jenson Button has the same thing for flipping Pascal Wehrlein in the 2017 Monaco Grand Prix. Now, this rule exists because it used to be tied to the car and the driver for the next race, not the driver's next race. And there is a story of Peter Sauber finding that as a way of dropping, I think it was Felipe Massa for, I think it was the US Grand Prix. And they just dropped him for a race. But that meant that the penalty didn't need to be applied. He could just come back the race after. So now it's tied directly to the driver. Not to the driver in the car, not to the car, to the driver directly. So if Bottas is to be on the grid for the 2026 Australian Grand Prix, he'll be taking a 5-place grid drop. Which, I gotta say, is pretty funny. You do feel for Bottas with that. That is a shame. It also means that if he comes in as, the reserve driver for any Mercedes power unit teams, they have to deal with the penalty. Or if he went off to Alpine like it was rumoured for ages, he don't have a penalty there. They have changed the rule now. So, new penalties will not necessarily carry on indefinitely. I think they will have something like a 12-month expiry. But that cannot be applied retroactively. So poor Bottas is in the same place as poor JB. The next race they start, they get a penalty. I wonder if that's why Mika Häkkinen's been on sabbatical for so long. Either way, the last thing I want to talk about today is Citroën and Formula E. It is rumoured that the Maserati MSG team will be Citroën next year. And in addition to that they have their 2 drivers confirmed. And that would be former DS Penske, Jean-Eric Vergne, and a former Jaguar, Nick Cassidy. Now that is an interesting proposition, and it is interesting because of what it insinuates to the future as well. You see, DS is a luxury part of Citroën, a bit like Genesis to Hyundai. The Citroën DS3 was, a Citroën DS3 before it became the DS Automotive DS3. Much like the Hyundai Genesis became the Genesis brand. So if this is the case, does that mean that DS Penske won't be a thing? And what will it mean for the Penske operation? I would say it's quite likely that Porsche is in the middle of reevaluating all of its motorsport commitments. And they might consider closing their works thing or sort of combining it together with Penske. I think it's Jay Penske runs it, isn't it? It's not Roger running all of the operations. And you have the Porsche Penske that you see in WEC, that you see in IMSA, in Formula E. It's possible. And whether or not that is as the full works team, because some teams will be looking at reducing the amount they're spending on series, or through some other kind of collaboration, we'll have to wait and see. But what I do want to say is, I think Formula E does really well when it has big grids. And we've already lost McLaren. I really want to see this continued success series. I really want to see big grids, and I think I can speak for most motorsport fans when I say I'm looking forward to seeing what Cadillac do next year in F1 when we go back up to 22 teams. First time since 2016. 22 teams, 22 cars. 22 teams would be impressive, but that's more the GT series. Anyways, that's enough said on that one, I think. And that's enough said for this video. Thanks for watching and joining, folks. My computer is saying that it wants to rest and relax. I suggest you do too. Until next time, bye for now.